Hey there, friends. So today I thought I would talk about the spread operator, rest and spread. And so here I'm going to do all my examples just in the Chrome developer tools. So Command Option J, and I have it popped out. But I'm going to pop it out just so that a little bit more room. So let's first talk about the why. I'm going to bump this up a little bit. So let's say that we have an array 1 equals 1, 2, 3. And I've got array 2 equals 4, 5, and 6. So let's say I wanted to combine these together into a single array. I could say array1.concat array2, and I get a new array. That doesn't affect array 1 or array 2. It just says take this array and concatenate everything inside of this other array. So that's kind of cool, but there are some situations where it would be nice if, like, we use this pretty frequently, and so in ES6 we added a new syntax for this type of operation. It especially becomes useful if you want to say, what if I wanted to add a 0 right here, and then we concat that array, and then we further concat, and then we'd further concat like 7, 8, 9. Right, so there's a bunch of concats here. So we can actually simplify this considerably by making a new array, just like we would if we were to do 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And then I'm going to spread the values of array 1, and then also spread the values of array 2, and then 7, 8, and 9. And so that's basically all that it is. It's at least for this scenario. There's several places where 3 dots appear in JavaScript, but this is called array spread, the array spread operator. So we're spreading the values of this array onto this new array that we're creating. So another place where this can be useful is here. I'm going to make a new function called log, and that's going to take all the arguments that it accepts. Oh, actually, you know what? In this little demo, I'm showing how that works. Yeah. Well, okay. That's funny. Let me try and think of a better way to explain this situation. Okay. So if I had a function that accepts, yeah, it doesn't accept anything. We'll just call it log, and then we're going to make our args. This is like the old way of what we used to do here. So here, and actually what I'm going to do first, clear this. Okay, so I'm going to say array.prototype.slice.call arguments. Well, no, I haven't done this in a little while. Console.log args log. Okay, yeah, I messed that up. I call that. No. Maybe it's arguments. Oh, actually, yeah. I think that's all it is. It's been a little while since I've done this. Okay, cool. So, yeah, so what we have here, what we have here is a function that I want to be able to call, and it just forwards all the arguments onto log. Now, right now, the arguments object that every function has is actually not an array. It looks like an array, but it's not. So we're turning it into an array here, and actually we can simplify this. Just yesterday I showed how to do from, so that actually will be better. Here we go. So with that though, when we log the args, we're logging an array. Now what if I wanted to just call log with every single one of those arguments, like in position 1, position 2? So I'd say args 0, args 1, args 2, as many arguments as they are. Now the way that we would do this is we could say call, well actually we'll do apply, and then this argument for console log we'll just keep as console, and then the args array is passed as args. So then I can say log 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And it will log just like as if I were doing console log. So this is a pretty typical wrapping function. You do this all the time. Too early in the video now, but in the course, sorry, I just noticed a chat. In the course of this video, please explain what is already an ECMA standard was coming. Yes, I will definitely cover that. Thank you for that, Rook. Okay, so this is not like my favorite way to write this code, and so we can use rest and spread to enable simplifying this a fair amount in the same way that we did it with arrays, or in a similar way. So this is an array, and if we wanted to, we can make a new args and duplicate that args array with that spread, and then we could also add additional arguments, whatever we want to do with what we just learned from array spread. Alternatively, you can also spread arrays over the arguments list. So like what we really want is args at 0, args at 1, and just like if we wanted that new array to have args at 0, args at 1, and then 3, 4, whatever. So it works in a very similar way. It basically is saying take all of the elements in this array and spread them across in this case, the array item list, or in the parameter list here that we're on the parameter list. So that's basically what this spread operator does in a function call. Is it just takes those arguments and it spreads them across the parameter list of that function call. So now we can do that log again, and it works exactly the same way. Cool. So that's one use of, or another use of spread. Another thing that we can do is in our argument list, what we could do is say arg1, arg2, arg3, and then args can be this array of arg1, arg2, arg3. But the problem is that what if they pass arg4, or what if they don't pass arg3? Now we have this array that has an undefined value, and that might not be useful for us. And so JavaScript has this new capability as of ES6 to be able to say, okay, I want arg1, 2, and 3, and then I want the rest of the arguments to be an array here. So if I call log with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, then we'd get arg1, arg2, arg3, and then the rest of these will be an array of 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that's what the that's what rest does. These 3 dots are the rest operator. And so we can do that at any point at the end of our parameter list. So we can give a couple, have a couple parameters, and then we can take the rest of them. This is actually what React.createElement does. Is the first argument, React.createElement accepts the first argument as a string or a component type. The second argument are the props, and then the rest of the arguments are the children prop, which makes it a little bit nicer if you were to write JSX or React CreateElement by itself, which pretty much no. So in our case, since we're just trying to wrap console log, we can just say all of these arguments we're going to have as an array. And that basically does the same thing that we're doing here. So what I'm going to do is I'll just call this args. And now we have a really simple wrapping log 1, 2. Now, why would you do this? There aren't super great reasons. One thing you could do is have a type here, and then you could put type and then the rest of the arguments. So then we can say log warn 1, 2, 3. And then it'll be a warn type. So there are some situations where having some sort of wrapper like this might be useful. Another thing that we could do is, well, yeah. Anyway, hopefully you get the idea. And mostly what I wanted to show here was how to use rest and spread on argument lists and parameter lists. So And all of the things that I've shown you so far are clearly they're supported in Chrome, and they're supported in all major modern browsers because these were all ES6 features. Now, in addition to these things, we also have the object version of this. So I'm going to make a, oh, by the way, normally I do const. You'll find me doing const a lot. I do var when I'm in the console here, because if I do const q equals this thing, and then later I clear this up, whoops, and then do const q equals like some other thing, I'm going to get a syntax error because we're in the same scope. So then I'd have to refresh, which I just, so anyway, that's why I'm doing var. I don't normally use var, normally prefer const. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and we'll make a variable. Obj1 is A, B, and C. Here, actually, sorry. A is B, C is an object with D as E. And then we'll have obj2, and it's going to have, I don't know, we'll have C as an object of F, U. What comes after F? A, B, C, D, E. H. Okay, cool. So now we've got these two objects. What if I wanted to merge these two objects together? Well, I could use Lodash because everybody loves Lodash, right? But say that I don't want to use Lodash. There is a built-in shallow merge functionality in JavaScript since ECMAScript 5.1 called object.assign. And it allows you to take any number of objects and assign those properties to a specific target. So here I'm going to make a var obj0 equals z. I don't know. It doesn't matter. So we'll say object assign obj0, oops, 0 obj1 and obj2, and it returns the shallow merged value of that object. So here we have z is h coming from obj0. We have a is b coming from obj1. We have h is I coming from obj2. And then we have c is an object with f and g coming from obj2. So you see there's a conflict between obj1 and obj2, where c is an object with d and e, and in obj2, c is an object with f and g. And the reason that object assign chose C from obj2 rather than obj1 is because obj2 came later in the argument list. So that's how object assign works, is it goes from left to right, assigning properties onto our target, and it also returns the target. So now if we look at obj0, it's actually going to be that same value, whereas initially we created it and assigned it to a simple object here. Now it's a more complex object with all those things. So that's what object assign does, is it kind of merges these things together in a shallow way. And so Lodash has a deep merge. Actually, I think its merge functionality will do a deep merge. So with Lodash, it actually we would have wound up with a C that has an F and a D property, merging those two objects together. But with object assign, we don't have that. If you want deep merge capabilities, then you can write it yourself, or there are like a billion modules on NPM that as well. So that's object assign. If you don't want to assign values to an object, manipulating that object, you want to create a new one, then the pattern for that is just to put an empty object here. And you can even give some like default values. This is pretty common, where it would say like A is Q, and if A doesn't happen to exist, then A will be Q. Or we could say Z is H, like we had before. So that's how object assign works, and it's important to understand object assign so you can understand the spread operator with objects. Now, this is a really recent feature in JavaScript, so like Internet Explorer definitely doesn't support this. But I think all modern browsers do. This is a ES 2018, I believe. So let's actually do the same thing we did with object assign here. I'm going to rewrite it using our the object spread. So if you recall from our array, we had like 0 and then array 1, whoops, array 2, and then 7, 8, 9. So object, oh, whoops, that needs to be spread across to spread those values into those slots in the array. Object assign is very similar. So if we take this and want to convert it, then what we can do is we'll say AQ, and then we'll spread object 1 and spread object 2. We have this, I'm putting this in parentheses because otherwise from this environment wouldn't like it very much. It would think I'm creating a block. So the fact that it's in parentheses is normally irrelevant because normally you'll assign this to value. But anyway, so this is how we would do that same object assign call there, is we have our any default values, and then afterward we can put our object 1 and object 2, and that will get us exactly the same thing that we had before. Now if we wanted to change things up as far as like which properties win in an event of a conflict, then we can swap the order of things. If we wanted to override values, like we always want A to be equal to Q, then we can say A is Q here, and then that value will take. So the order of where you're putting these spread values matters. It matters also in array spread because it's just the index at which the array items are going to be in the new array that you're creating. But in an object, it's actually merging these properties together, and so you're going to be overriding these values. I think that's it. This also has like some really great value when destructuring as well. So here, if I'm going to make var x. So a couple of weeks ago, I had a live stream that showed destructuring. I think I showed this. But here, just like with the rest params, you can also destructure and use the rest values. So with objects, I can say var here, and let's look at x really quick. So if I wanted to get c, then I can destructure it that way, and h, and then I can have that equal to x. And now c is that d and e we have here. C is that object, and h is that string of I. Now, if I wanted to, I can redeclare this, and I say I want to pluck off c and h, and then I want to take the rest of the object. And then rest obj is going to be all of the properties that were not c and h. So we take c and h. All the rest of the enumerable properties will be put into this new object called rest ob. And that's actually kind of a handy way to be able to pluck off properties, is by using destructuring and then using the rest operator, or the ... operator here to get the rest of those properties. And that works in argument lists as well. So if you have options, you can, or like think about a React component where you're getting props, and you say, I want the class name, I want the style, because I'm going to compose those, and then I'll take the rest, and then I'll just apply that. Here, maybe I'll show you an example. It's kind of hard to do that here because let's go to the Babel REPL. I'll just show you. HTTPS, come on. Okay, so here we have our function box, and that's going to turn around and return a div, right? We'll just return div itself. Well, here this is going to take children, and we'll apply children here. We're also going to want the style, and we'll take style equals style, and we could keep on going forever, just forwarding on all these props here. Let's say that we wanted to, well, actually, yeah, we'll just, I'll get to that here in a second. So what's going on here is we're saying React create element div, and then style, and then children as that third argument. So, and this is React create element, like I said, that function is using REST. I don't know if it's coded to use REST, but it emulates that kind of API. So if I added a hi, okay, then it's going to be the next argument, and then I can say whatever, and that'll be the following argument, so on and so forth. So that's kind of it. Okay, so if I didn't want to think of every possible prop to be able to forward onto the div, then I could just do props, and then I can do this object spread. We'll self-close that, spread props. And all that's doing in the transpiled, I think they have like an optimization for this particular case, is it's just taking those props and passing it in as the object for the props property. If I wanted to add a custom prop, I could say ID is hi. And now it does a whole bunch of stuff. Basically, all of this code right here is just object assign or the polyfill for object assign. And then it uses extends as a mechanism for doing this object spread capability. So what this is doing is it's basically doing an object spread of the prop ID and hi and this props object. And so it extends this new object with the ID of hi and the props. So it's combining that ID of hi and whatever that props object is and passing that on. So yeah, pretty cool stuff going on there. And then you can use destructuring here. So if I wanted to take the style, because I want to make a change to the style or something. Well, actually here, let's take that back. So let's say that I wanted to add my own style, background color black, something. But then somebody starts using the box, they say a box and style is font size 15, for example. Okay, so if somebody were to do that, what happens here is the props, because it's coming second, we learned with our object assign that whatever comes later in this object assign call is going to override what came before. So we're going to, and it doesn't do a deep merge, it's going to do a shallow merge. And so style is going to get overridden by our props object that we're forwarding along here. So if you wanted to be able to prevent that, then one thing you could do is we could take this props and spread it here. And now the props that we provide here will override any props that are provided. So people can no longer use the style prop and have their styles applied. If you want both of these things, so you want to be able to let people provide their own style, but you also want to provide your own style, then you could take destructure the style prop that they're passing and take any of the other props that they pass. And then you could spread your props just like you're doing here. And then we can combine, we can take this style object here and combine the style object that we have with the style object that we're being provided. And so now they can override the background color if they want, or they can just provide a font size and it will combine with our styles, which is pretty handy. Yeah, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff here, which is why you want to optimize what Babel so that it doesn't stick this in every single one of the files. That's a different subject. But yeah, that's where some of this stuff kind of and how some of this stuff works in React and JSX. And I use this all the time. I think it's great. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you all later. Bye.